Welcome back to the channel, you Curd Nerds. We've got yet another exciting mock check ride. And of course, we thank the student for allowing us to record these and put them out to the public so that you can make sure that you're ready for your next check ride. And if you want to go through one of these, if you want to make sure that you are prepared and ready for your next check ride, follow the links down below and we'll get one scheduled for you. And you can end up just like this student, fully prepared and ready for your check ride, whatever it happens to be: commercial, instrument, private pilot, multi-engine, instructor ratings. Let me know and we'll get it scheduled for you. Now, if you've got any questions, of course, leave them in the comments. This student was incredibly prepared and was pretty knowledgeable. And even at the end, they were still like, oh my God, I need more. I want more info. I want more knowledge. So we went over a couple different books that I recommended to them, and I'll try to put those down in the links below, because I always recommend use the free books that the Federal Aviation Administration puts out. There's no need to go spend $30 on some of these other books because they're all written from the same source material. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we get into the check ride, let's talk about the people who are supporting this kind of content. Desktop Pilot. Desktop Pilot is an amazing sim gear manufacturer that they really focus on the gear that you are purchasing being as close to the aircraft as possible. So if we look at some other brands, I'm not going to name anybody right now, they aren't necessarily a direct representation of the aircraft. So it could lead into some negative transference of learning. Or if you're looking at some other more expensive ones that do properly represent the aircraft, you kind of got to buy the whole thing at once. Well, Desktop Pilot says you can buy individual components like this flap handle right here. And as you can tell, they don't care if you take it apart and bolt it into your own panel. So if you use promo code CheesePilot10, you'll get 10% off. Now let's get into the check ride. So we've hit the record button just so that we got this recorded. We just got to ask, just making sure you're okay with this being recorded, to be used at a later date for, any kind of social media, not this is a non-inclusive list, but things like TikTok, Instagram, etc., YouTube. You're okay with that?
Yes, I am okay with those conditions.
Awesome. So I always get into, how I kind of run these. This part's usually kind of cut out of any kind of videos I put up, because it's the exact same for every single one of these that I do. I go through the general briefing, at least the same briefing that I would give to student pilots when it comes to, them when I was providing, check rides. Okay, I've never provided check rides, but I did certificate granting stage checks for a 141 program. So pretty dang close to a check ride.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And, at least when I did them, I always said that, hey, dude, I'm on your side. I want you to pass, because if you fail, I have to do more paperwork. But
right.
There are, before we get any further, DPE is going to ask for your logbook, certificates, including your medical certificate, basic med if you don't have a medical, government issued photo ID. Student IDs don't count, and it does have to be, a government issued photo ID. A lot of people just think government issued ID, but let's remember your social security card is technically a government issued ID, and there's no photo on it, right? Then I ask, have you read the ACS? The Airman Certification. Yeah. Have you read the Airman Certification Standards? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So do you understand the standards that you're being held to during this evaluation?
Yes.
Awesome. So just like it says in the ACS, there are 3 outcomes to every check ride. There's satisfactory. You are consistently within the standards set forth by the Airman Certification Standards. Doesn't necessarily mean that you don't slightly fall out of standards momentarily and correct back into them. It's not like, oh crap, I dropped 10 feet low. I failed my check ride. Let me just give up. No. Consistently within standards, not all the time within standards. Right. And even in the oral portion, it's not necessarily that you're going to be perfect on every subject that we evaluate you on. That's an unreasonable expectation. All right. But I expect that you have a pretty solid knowledge of everything that I do bring up, to make sure that, you're going to be a safe pilot. That's really at the end of the day what these are for. Okay. So satisfactory really means that you're going to be a safe pilot, and not only just in a DA-20, but you have a good enough base of knowledge that you could go hop into another aircraft, evaluate its POH, fly with another pilot that might not necessarily be a CFI, and be safe in that aircraft, right?
Yeah.
So then we've got unsatisfactory, something that nobody ever wants to hear. This is consistently outside of standards, or the DPE or the examiner does have to take control of the aircraft to prevent, damage, death, dismemberment, or a violation of flight regulations. Okay, that would result in a pilot deviation. Okay, then we have incomplete. All right, incomplete can be we can incomplete a lesson or incomplete a check ride for a number of reasons. But the big three are mainly going to be airworthiness concerns. So obviously we're not going to go fly an aircraft that's not airworthy. I feel like that should go without saying, right? And then we also have time, right? If we run out of time, if we're continuing on, of course we're going to incomplete it. No need to fail you because, you got to go home and cook dinner or something, right? Then we also have weather. And this isn't just like thunderstorms. If you've never flown in 20 knot crosswinds, don't go take your check ride in 20 knot crosswinds. Okay. I've heard a couple horror stories where, DPEs are like, well, there's no limitation on the aircraft for that, right? Is crosswind a limitation? No. Well, then it's safe, isn't it? Well, come on. Or anything else that would impact the safety of flight.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, without further ado, I really like to just dig into systems because if you don't really understand your aircraft, it's the rest of this probably isn't going to go too hot. Okay. So let's just get straight into the engine. This engine's it's a little different than some of the other aircraft, but can you describe this engine to me?
Yeah. So I use the acronym CHAND.
Okay.
C hand. It's a Continental IO 240, 125 horsepower, 125 horsepower at sea level, horizontally opposed, air cooled, naturally aspirated, direct drive to the propeller.
Okay. Awesome. Only thing I would kind of leave out is like the acronym that you use. Acronyms are great. I love them. They're mnemonics. And they help you like learn and retain information. DPs, at least from what I've seen, they get a little annoyed with acronyms because a lot of study guides use acronyms. Your POH doesn't. Right. So the DPs are like, oh, so he obviously got this from a study guide. Let's dig deeper. Mm-hmm. What kind of propeller is it? And they start asking more and more and more questions that aren't in your acronym.
Yeah.
Right. If you would have left out the acronym portion of it, I would have been like, all right, good. Let's move on. But since we had the acronym, I'm like, all right, so he's got rote level knowledge from a study guide. Let me dig deeper. Okay.
All
right. Good answer. It's just when you include a little bit of extra information, it digs a hole for you. All right.
Yeah.
Now you said it was 4-stroke and fuel injected. What does 4-stroke mean? What are those 4 strokes?
So the 4 strokes are intake, compression, power, exhaust.
Okay. And you said fuel injected. Is there another option? Not necessarily for this aircraft, but like for aircraft in general?
A carburetor engine.
All right. How much gas does this thing have? Total capacity?
24.5 gallons.
All right. How much of that can I use?
24.
That is awesome, right? So this thing's got an electrical system. Can you kind of talk to me about this aircraft's electrical system?
I can try to. The electrical system, it's all okay. The electrical system.
Well, let's start at the source. Where does this electrical system get power? Like, what's its source? All right. How many volts is that battery?
I'm not sure.
All right. How high does your voltmeter go on your instruments?
I think it was like 24 or 36, or something like that.
So I'm looking at your POH, and again, some of these are might be a little different. But again, I'm looking at the POH.
I'll be honest, I'll be honest. I haven't explored the electrical system of the DA-20
Okay.
detail yet.
Okay. So if you're getting ready for a check ride, I understand this POH is 378 pages. It's a whole lot more than some other aircraft, right? It's a pretty big POH. You got to read it. You got to read the whole thing. You have to understand your aircraft because if it's outside of its normal range, yeah, you've got a fancy. Does this thing have fancy avionics? Sometimes Diamonds put fancy avionics in their stuff.
Yeah, it's got a G500.
Yeah, so you've got some pretty nice avionics, so it'll yell at you if something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
But let's say I'm not a private pilot check ride isn't verifying that you can fly your school's aircraft, right? It's really verifying that like you're gonna pass a check ride and you have the ability and resources to dig through a POH and understand how to ask for maintenance on your airplane. Right. So if you went to the mechanic and was like, hey, I think my battery's dead, you'd be like, all right, what battery do we need to order? We need a 12-volt battery.
Yeah.
All right. So we started at the battery. We recognize batteries got 12 volts, right? I use the battery for what?
To start the engine or to power the avionics.
Yeah, so I use it to start the engine or power the avionics when the engine's not running.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when we pull down on a battery, like we pull a charge or we pull a draw on a battery, it's going to discharge it. What's going to charge it back up?
I believe it's the alternator.
Yeah, the alternator is going to. Well,
Yeah.
It's got an alternator, right? Do you understand the difference between the two?
What the
Difference between an alternator and a generator? Because they're
generator,
not. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, a generator's not the same thing. Generators have permanent magnets in them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then generators can produce DC voltage, so it's not a generator; it is an alternator.
Okay.
And just again, this goes back to the private pilot. You can go buy your own airplane. Old airplanes do have generators. If you put a generator on your DA-20, it's going to fry its battery and avionics. Okay.
I said a generator because on our main panel where the master switch is, it says gen/bat.
Okay.
And bat. So I thought what the gen meant was generator.
I guess that is technically what that means. Let's look. All right, I've got your POH right here. I guess I didn't look.
Yeah, I've got my airplane and like behind me. You see it?
Oh, okay. So you've got it right there. All right.
I practice on that.
Generator warning light. Oh, well, it's a generator. Okay, it's calling it a generator. All right. I guess it's a generator. I don't know if it actually is a generator. Well, I guess it shows me an electrical diagram. Battery in. Generator failure. Generator master. I mean, 40 amp generator attached to the engine propeller hub. It's calling it a generator. It's not showing me inside of it. So, but it's got an over voltage relay. Either way, neither here nor there. Battery gets recharged by the generator, right? What happens if the generator dies?
Then we only have about 15 minutes of battery left, and that's it.
All right. What happens after the battery dies?
Then all of the avionics shut down. The lights go out. Yeah, and the flaps don't work.
Okay. So the engine's going to stay running.
Yes.
All right. Why? Like, how does the engine stay running? Like, if the battery dies in my car, it's not going to stay running.
Yeah, no. The engine is separate from the electrical system. The engine is powered by magnetos.
Oh, that's a fancy word. Isn't that an X-Men? No, I'm kidding. But what's how do magnetos work?
So a magneto is basically like a magnet that spins and it creates current, and it goes through the spark plug because ours is an injected engine, and so it goes to the spark plugs, and that's how it runs.
Okay. Let's say one of the magnetos dies. What's going to happen?
then only one of the spark plugs would work in each cylinder.
Oh, so we've got 2 spark plugs per cylinders, and they
Yep.
share, right? Awesome, awesome redundancy, right? Um, let me again. I'm digging through your POH real quick, just making sure I'm not missing anything when it comes to systems. Um, what kind of anti-ice do we have on this aircraft?
Any anti-ice?
Yeah, we should have 2 systems. And I know a lot of people forget about them because they seem pretty basic and they don't seem like you would call them anti-ice.
Yeah. I've got cabin defrost, and um, I'm not sure about the next one, but our propeller has like these black boots at the root, but I'm not sure if those are like heated or used for anti-ice.
Oh, do you have heated props on this thing?
No, I'm not sure. I'm just saying, whenever I do pre-flight, I look at the prop, and then at the root of the prop,
I
it's
know what.
black. Usually,
Yeah.
it's like a boot, but
Yeah.
I've used it on the DA-20 where the heater is. You can either select a floor or defrost, and the floor is when you get like heater coming from from the pedals and all that, like from inside the cockpit down at your feet. And the
Hmm.
defrost is a general defrost. It'll defrost the canopy, and yeah, that's it.
So is your pitot heated? Is your pitot tube heated?
We have a pitot mast, but I haven't used a pitot heat yet. I'm not even sure if we have one
Oh, that's
in
weird.
my cockpit.
Um, did you look at pitot heat operation? Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing one being referenced in your POH due to the increased electrical load, blah, blah, blah. Ammeter must be monitored. Um, yeah. So those are our 2 pitot heat systems, right? Or those are our 2 anti-ice systems, right? So we've got our defroster for the window, and we've got our pitot heat. That's really all we've got when it comes for
Okay.
anti-ice in this aircraft. So let's dig into a little bit of emergencies, and this will really kind of test, what's the real understanding of your aircraft systems. But right off the bat, what are we going to do if we have an engine failure during your takeoff run? So you're still on the runway.
So on takeoff, I do power idle, brakes as required, flaps to cruise, and just stop.
Okay. Um, there's 3 other steps.
Oh, shut the engine down. Fuel shut off, valve closed, mixture idle cut off, or sorry, mixture idle cut off, ignition switch off, master switch off.
Yep, yep. And do you understand why we're turning the master and the ignition off?
Uh, Master and the ignition. Yes, to like in case we if in case anything happens, the prop shouldn't get any damage or sparks from the battery maybe.
Yeah, I mean it pulls all the power away from the engine. It's in case we crash. Like
Yeah.
that's really what it is. It's in the event that we crash. I want to make sure that there is something that I am preventing as much of an emergency as possible. Okay. Now, what if I have if I take off and my engine seems like it's not really producing enough power? Like maybe it's in like it really feels like it's not producing much power. What am I going to do?
So the first thing is full power, mixture full rich, alternate air is open. Make sure the fuel shut off valve is in. Um, Ignition switch to both, fuel pump on.
Okay. Um, Now, what if the engine doesn't come back?
Then it depends where we are, like our height above the ground. But if we have to make like a landing in the field, then I just reverse everything. So fuel shut off, valve closed, mixture idle cut off, ignition switch off, flaps as required, master switch off, and after landing apply brakes.
All right. So you said it really depends on the altitude that you're at, what would change? Like what?
Or sorry, our procedure won't change. Sorry, our procedure won't change. What we're gonna do might change. So, for example, if we're below 1,000 feet, we'll just land in the field. If we're above 1,000 feet or pattern altitude, then we go back to the opposite runway and then we land. That's what I meant, and not the procedure. Sorry about that.
No, yeah, that's what I was getting at. Sorry if that was if I didn't ask that appropriately, right?
Good.
I'm out cruising along and I get Gen Annunciator Light illuminated. What am I going to do?
So that just means that our generator is not working. It's not going to produce any amps. So now we're just reliant on the battery. Um, I just use the checklist. I mean,
Awesome.
I'll just follow the checklist.
Awesome. It's not really, hey, we need to solve this now. We're going to reference the checklist. That's what I
It's
was
not
looking
all
at.
our memory items. It's all the engine failures and spin recovery
Mm-hmm.
is the memory items. Like a gen issue or battery issue isn't really like a memory item that we really have.
I was trying to make sure you weren't going to try and pull it from memory, that you were just going to reference the checklist. That's what it was. Cause like, people that get real confident, they start just running straight out of memory. Like I even have to yell at myself from time to time to actually use the checklist in my own airplane.
Yeah.
Like, yo, man, like stop, you do use the checklist. Okay. All right. That's a pretty awesome understanding of the systems. Let's talk about some limitations on this aircraft. Can this aircraft do spins?
Yes,
All right.
it can.
So is there anything, if you were to come up to a different DA-20 and somebody wanted to go do spins in it, is there some kind of system that you would look for to ensure that it's not installed to verify that the aircraft can do spins?
A system that's not installed.
So the aircraft does have a limitation on its spins, right? So some DA-20s have this, which prevents it from doing spins. Other DA-20s don't have it, and that allows it to do spins.
Yeah, actually, I haven't heard of that before.
An altitude compensating fuel system. It's in the
Ooh, okay. I've heard that, but I wasn't sure if that was the right answer.
Yes, that is what I was getting at. The altitude compensating fuel system does put the limitation. It does put a limitation, pretty much saying like no spins are allowed, right?
Gotcha.
So if we're doing a short field takeoff, there's a 50-foot obstacle at the end of the runway. Make it a tree, make it a building, I don't care. What airspeed am I going to climb at immediately after takeoff?
VX, which is 58 knots.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go dig into your POH because I know I wrote these down. So I'm seeing that not being VX, right? So the correct number is 58, but VX is marketed is different, and depending on its configuration. So we've got a cruise configuration and a takeoff configuration for VX, right? So what are those
Right.
two different speeds?
For VX, I was only taught for takeoff it's 58. For cruise, I believe it's 64. Not sure. I'm not sure.
All right, let's go find it in the POH because I've got 60 and 57 for our takeoff configuration. So, airspeed limitations, right? I am right here. That's VFE. That's VA. Where'd it go? There we go. So crew climb speed during normal takeoff for 50-foot obstacle, right up at the top, right in the POH on page 105. All right. It's 58. Okay. Best angle of climb speed at sea level, VX, wings, flaps set for takeoff is 57. Why they're different? No idea. But that's the limitation put in the POH.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hasn't went over that yet. He just taught me like all the V speeds, for the aircraft, and that's what I've been memorizing. The only only speed according to the configuration that I was taught was VY, which is like
Okay.
2 flaps
Okay.
and a flap.
And that's great and all, and this is kind of why I don't like just feed my students information, because I want us all to look it up together. And when I am kind of teaching, I try to have the book right there in front of me, because like, sure, I'm an instructor, I know where to find the information. I've been doing this for a while or what have you. You don't though.
Yeah, I don't have a book. I've got one on the iPad.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll just pull it up.
Yeah. So it's in airspeeds for normal flight 4.2, page 105. Is the chart that I'm referencing.
Page 1. Wait, could you repeat that again?
So I'm looking at the DA20-C1 AFM, the one you sent me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
it's in chapter 4.2. The page I'm looking at in like the PDF is 105.
Okay.
You see that chart?
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
And I know the one knot
Okay.
might not be the end of the world, but it's also not correct. And the last thing you really want to do is fail a check ride over something this simple, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely take some time. You probably got a wonderful study guide, and your instructor's probably doing a pretty good job. But always know where the reference material is, know where the source material is, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I fell victim to this same thing, like trusting my instructor, just listen to my instructor. I'm not gonna lie, I made it all the way through private pilot and never even looked at 91-205. Okay. I never even looked at it. Okay. So I'm not just going to fault you being like, oh, bad student, you need to do these things. No, I did the exact same thing. But what I also know is that like when I had my private pilot's license, there's no way in hell I should have ever been flying anything other than what the school offered me. But that's not what my private pilot's license gives me allows me to do. And we'll talk about the privileges and limitations in a little bit. All right. So we talked about VY. What's VNO?
So VNO is our normal operating speed.
Okay. When am I allowed to exceed VNO?
In smooth air.
Okay. Well, what's the speed? Just what's the number associated?
118 knots.
Awesome. What's VA and what does it provide for me?
VA is your maneuvering speed, so 106 knots for the DA20, and it provides. So if you're at maneuvering speed, you can make one full control deflection, and you'll be fine. It's not going to be structurally damaged.
It won't damage the aircraft, right? So which side of that speed is that? If I'm at 108, am I safe, or is it 104? I'm safe.
104.
Awesome. That's pretty good. All right. Let's get into some aerodynamics. All right. Describe to me the two different principles in regards to the generation of lift.
So the first thing we have is Bernoulli's principle, and the second is Newton's third law of motion.
Okay, so what are those?
Okay, Bernoulli's principle states. No, I know what they are. I'm just laughing. Bernoulli's principle states that when air speeds up, it creates lower pressure. And Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
So Bernoulli's law isn't necessarily stating that when air speeds up, the pressure reduces, right? Like when you turn your fan on, the air is being accelerated, right? Is the pressure dropping in your room? No. So it's when air meets a restriction, or technically it's when a fluid meets a restriction. The velocity of that fluid will increase while its pressure drops. What's the restriction that we're referring to in this when we're talking about airplanes? It's the wing. The wing is the restriction,
Oh, gotcha.
right?
Okay.
So have you've seen in the P hack the little like the tube with the where it's squeezed, right? And it's showing all the little
Yeah,
dials.
it's a Venturi. Yeah,
Yeah, the
in Venturi.
Venturi, right? So if you cut that Venturi in half, what does the bottom look like? Looks like a
The
wing,
wing.
does right? So
Yeah.
that's really what's happening, right? So what
Okay.
ends up happening on the bottom of the wing, do we get high or low pressure?
We have high pressure.
So on the top of the wing, we get low pressure, right? Your aircraft has some funny looking wingtips in regards to like, most other general aviation aircraft. We look at this little Piper 140, its wings are
Yeah.
generally straight. Why are the wingtips pointed up on your aircraft?
That's to reduce the wingtip vortices. So yeah, it's to reduce the wingtip vortices.
That's it. That's the end of the question. That's the end of the response. Um, Commercial level, we might dig a little deeper and go, oh, what do wingtip vortices do? And then you'd say, oh, well, wingtip vortices, they wrap around the wing, they hit the top of it, cause a little bit of drag. So when we have tilted up wingtips or winglets like that, it helps push those vortices farther away from the wing, not letting them hit the top of the wing as much, causing more drag. But that's, a little commercial level of aerodynamics, right? So
Yeah, I was gonna explain it, then I was like, wait, it's a
yeah,
Checkride.
never miss an opportunity to shut up.
Yep.
All right. So what if there was like a 737 taking off in front of you? That's going to generate some wingtip vortices. What would we call those wingtip vortices?
Wake turbulence.
All right. What is wake turbulence?
Wake turbulence is basically, I explained earlier, when the high pressure air goes up over the wing or over the wingtips, it creates vortices, and that's basically wake turbulence. It's produced by another aircraft producing lift.
Okay. What aircraft is most likely to produce the most wake turbulence?
Um, an aircraft that's heavy, clean, and slow.
Heavy, clean, and slow. Have you ever heard of that Challenger that blew through the wake turbulence of an A380 at cruise?
No, but I heard it actually in one of your videos. You were explaining it to the student,
Yeah, it's
and that's
it's
how I know.
it's a big deal. All right. So how do I avoid wake turbulence?
Um, so you just stay out of. So for example, if back to the example you gave, if a 737 is taken off in front of me, then I would rotate earlier than where it rotated, which is basically like 1,200 feet or so of roll. And if we're landing, then I'd land past where the 737 landed.
Awesome. Now, is it only airplanes that generate wake turbulence?
That's a good question. Um,
So how do we get wake turbulence? But with the generation of lift, right?
yeah.
So can a helicopter generate lift?
Yeah.
Can a helicopter generate wake turbulence?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a I think it's one of these. Or it was a Mooney. It ended up like completely flipping upside
Yeah.
down. Yep.
I saw that.
Did you see the timestamps on Did you see the timestamps on the video?
No.
It was like 3 minutes between when the helicopter was there and the Mooney flipped.
Wow.
Like that's like
That's
I'm in the pattern and somebody landed and like I'm not paying attention to other people landing, right? Like I don't care about right?
yeah. Have you seen the video of the Black Hawk and the PC-12?
No, I have not. Is it again another like
Yeah, it was. It didn't crash. The PC-12 didn't crash.
okay.
It was Black Hawk that it was air show, and they were taking off, and then the PC-12 also took off behind them, and there was no separation whatsoever. And the PC-12 just went just like that, and then
Yeah.
and the pilot, what was a good pilot, he was pretty skilled. He recovered from it, but
Mhm.
it was like a crazy video on YouTube.
So, if you were coming in for an approach and flying your airplane, what kind of motions in this airplane would kind of be indicative of you possibly getting into wake turbulence?
Um, I'd say like bumps, I guess. Like,
Well, let's say you fly in Arizona. If there's no bumps, you're probably like dreaming because like you're not actually flying. Like that's
yeah,
all right. So wingtip vortices, like they're vortices.
yeah,
So if I'm in an airplane and I fly into some vortices going like this, what do you think the airplane's going to do?
it's gonna bank.
It's going to be an uncommanded roll,
Yeah.
uncommanded and possibly unrecoverable roll. All right. So let's talk about kind of the some measurements on a wing, right? So wings have all kinds of different lines that are running through them and running around them and whatnot, right? So
Mhm.
if I were to draw an imaginary line from the leading edge of my wing to the trailing edge of my wing, what would that imaginary line be called?
It's a cord line.
Okay, so it's a chord line. If I am flying along at this, kind of like this angle, a little tilted up. I've got
Hmm.
the wind coming at me like this. What would be the angle between the wind and that chord line?
The angle of attack.
Awesome. Awesome. So as I continue to pitch up, my angle of attack continues to increase. What's
Hmm.
going to happen if I get to a critical angle of attack? Well, first, let's rephrase that. What is a critical angle of attack?
It's when the airplane no longer can produce lift.
So the
Or the air coming in is no longer able to flow over the top of the wing. I
it's
guess.
no longer able to flow over the top of the wing, causing turbulence, kind of eddy currents on the back of the wing, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I've got boundary layer, turbulent flow, adverse pressure gradients. How do I recover from a stall?
You would decrease the angle of attack.
Awesome. So in your aircraft, talk me through step by step.
Okay, so in a stall, if you do get into a stall, um, you just have to do full power and pitch the nose up. Once you have positive rate, now this is a power off condition, but a power off stall. So full power, um, pitch the nose or just decrease the angle of attack. Once you have positive climb, flaps to takeoff, and you have to capture VY. And then once you have positive rate and positive airspeed, then flaps to cruise, and then you can climb out.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, let's talk a little bit more about the wing, right? So in your aircraft, and even this one, right? The wing root right here is
Mhm.
steeper. It has a greater angle than the wing tip. Why is that?
So that the ailerons kick can be the most effective in a stall.
So it's my ailer. Do you know what's that called? Like what that angle is called?
The angle of incidence.
Awesome, awesome. Well, a couple people call it washout as well. Um,
I've never
now,
heard of
yeah, I think it's an old term, right? Now, why is a propeller twisted?
it. Because a propeller also has an angle of attack, and it works kind of the same way as a wing, except it's like this. It just the best way I can explain it is it's a screw in the air. Basically, it just grabs air, and thrust is produced.
Okay, so not necessarily. Maybe I didn't ask the question properly. So we know that like a propeller, obviously, it's not just a flat blade. It's got this little bit of twist to it. What I really
Yeah.
mean is, why is it more twisted here than it is up here?
Hmm. Actually, I'm not sure about that.
So, but you've recognized it, right? You've
Yeah,
seen it on your propeller. Where's the fastest point on a propeller blade?
on the tips.
Right. So if I'm moving an airplane at I don't know 60 knots, I have to have the nose up pretty high, right, to generate enough lift.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm doing 110, I can kind of flatten out the nose, right?
Hmm.
It's the same thing with your propeller. So we've got our little propeller down here. We'll call it I don't know Yeah. Down here at the wing root is moving really, or the propeller root is moving really slow. Up
Yeah.
here, it's moving really fast. It's just like when the airplane's moving really slow, we've got a real steep angle of attack.
Mm-hmm.
And when the airplane's moving fast, we have a shallower angle of attack because we generate more lift or more thrust based on our speed, right?
Oh, okay.
So the reason the propeller blade is twisted is so that we don't get a kind of bending moment on the propeller blade. It's so that we can have an even force of pressure along the entire blade. Imagine
Okay.
if your propeller was trying to bend itself inward the entire flight.
I cannot imagine that.
Probably wouldn't be too nice, right?
Nope.
So that's really why they're twisted. All right. Now the propeller causes a lot of left turning tendencies. Do you remember what those are?
Yes. Um, Torque, gyroscopic precession, um, asymmetrical propeller loading, also known as P factor,
Okay.
and spiraling slipstream.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about torque. What is torque?
So again, earlier from one of the two principles, Newton's the third law of motion. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if the propeller, from my view, as if I'm flying the airplane, is turning to the right, then it'll produce an equal and opposite reaction, which will turn the airplane towards the left. So it'll just go to the left.
Awesome. Now you said there was what did you call it? Asymmetrical propeller loading? Like technically that's correct, but like everybody calls it P factor. What is P factor?
P factor is when the downward moving blade of the propeller is taking a bigger bite of air than the upward moving propeller.
Okay. So since it's taking a bigger bite of air, it's got a bigger angle of
Angle of attack.
awesome. Yep. Now what is gyroscopic precession? You said gyroscopic precession is one of the left turning tendencies.
Yes. It is basically when an applied force when there's an applied force, the resultant force that's sort of felt is 90 degrees to the right. So when you put in full power, you're trying to go straight, right? So then that force is going to be put at the top of the propeller, but it'll be felt 90 degrees to the right, and therefore, the airplane's just gonna turn to the left.
So no, you got your directions a little different. It's more
Yep.
about your pitching moment.
Okay.
All right. So and make sure you include, so from the beginning, when a spinning object with mass has a torque applied to it, the actual torque is felt 90 degrees in the direction of rotation. Okay. So
Okay.
if I've got a blade spinning to the left as it's in front of me and I pitch up, that is me pulling on the top of the propeller or me pushing on the bottom of the propeller. 90
Okay.
degrees in the direction of rotation, pushing on the right side, pulling on the left side. That's why I go left. So if I pitch down, is it still a left turning tendency?
No.
Awesome, right? It's not necessarily about that full power thing. Because we know, like when we apply full power on an airplane, where does it go?
To the left.
All right, that's torque.
Yeah.
All right. Because if we're in straight and level flight, P factor isn't a factor. We're in straight and level flight, right? Or gyroscopic precession is not a factor. Sorry, not P factor. Gyroscopic precession. Well, I guess P factor as well. You're right. Now, what was that last one that you brought up? Spiraling slipstream. What is that?
So that's when the propeller is turning, and it's like it's spiraling down on the fuselage, and it's hitting the left side of the vertical stabilizer. Therefore, the airplane's gonna turn to the left.
Awesome. let's get into some flight controls. Can you tell me what some primary flight controls are?
Yes, we have the ailerons, elevator, and the rudder.
All right. What about some secondary flight controls?
Your flaps, trim.
All right. So that's all that's on your aircraft. Let's say you went and flew something a little fancier. Is there any other kind of secondary flight controls you might see?
Secondary flight controls.
Again,
There's
go ahead.
there's one thing I can't remember the name of it, but it's like it's a thing in front of the wings. It's like one of these. I don't know what it's called. It's on one of the Diageo jets or something like that. Like
Okay.
this. I don't know what it's called though.
So does it slide forward? Right. So front of the wing, it kind of slides a little bit forward and down.
Oh, the slat.
Yes, slats.
That,
right. That's
is
another
that what-
secondary. Yeah, that's just the only other one that I was kind of
Gotcha.
trying to get you to talk about. Let's talk about, is there any kind of high lift devices on this aircraft? Probably not.
Any
But
high lift devices, flaps.
well, flaps are one. What about some static high lift devices? Have you ever heard of wingtip or not wingtip, but vortex generators?
Yeah.
All right.
I have.
Those-
I've seen it on the Airbus A320.
yep.
Like we were flying to this, I don't know where, can't remember, but on the Airbus A320, and the engine has like a fin, also the vortex generator, and
Those aren't. Those are more of like laminar flow generators. They're not intended to be. They're not intended to be vortex generators. What they're intended to do is prevent turbulence from beating up the side of the airplane.
okay.
Because you've got all that shrouded area right there. So if there's any kind of wind not coming straight at the airplane, it ends up getting this. You end up getting this like kind of like when you have one window rolled down, and you get the like. That's what would happen if that thing wasn't there. So it's more of a laminar flow generator, which is kind of what vortex generators are for, but it's not a high lift device. It's not helping the airplane go up in that place, right? Because I know what you're talking about. The thing that says no step on it.
Yeah.
Vortex generators, they're going to be on the top of the wing.
Okay.
All right. Because I'm sitting here like, 320's got vortex generators? Like trying to like, but all right. I'm pretty happy with what's the only hydraulic system that's on your aircraft?
The only hydraulic, the brakes.
Awesome. Now let's get into some rules and regulations. You pass your check ride. Awesome. Congratulations. What can you do now?
I can now carry passengers.
All right. Is there any way in which you could, at the very least, like not pay the entire cost?
No, you have to pay the pro rata share of the flight.
Okay. So that's not necessarily the entire cost, is it? Me and you go fly. I give you $50. Is that legal?
It depends on how much the flight is, but I have to pay at least half of the cost.
Now, awesome. That's exactly what we're getting at. Is there anything? Go ahead.
Were you asking if I could pay full, like for the whole flight? Is that what you were asking?
No, not just that, but like, is there any way that you don't have to pay for the full flight?
No. I have to pay at least half.
Yeah. All right. Now, is there anything in which you could be compensated for your flying?
If it's for a search and rescue, yes.
Okay.
If you had to spend any money for a search and rescue operation, you'll be reimbursed for it, not compensated.
Okay. So you hear that somebody went missing, and you just went and hopped in your airplane and went and started going to search for them. And then you just sent the bill to the police department. Is that what that's talking about?
No.
No.
It has to be for an organization.
Okay. It also has to be endorsed by that organization, right?
Okay.
So you've heard of those like sad events where somebody goes missing and then they do like a hands across the desert kind of thing where like everybody's out walking together to try and find any kind of evidence, right?
No,
You've never heard of those? Okay. Well,
No.
really what I'm getting at is that like the search and rescue operation, not only like it's not just that you have to be part of the search and rescue operation, it has to be like very deliberate. You are going to fly an aircraft for our search and rescue operation.
Right.
Okay. Really what it's getting at is a civil air patrol so that private pilots can help with the civil air patrol.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got what kind of documents do you need if you want to go fly as a private pilot?
I need my airman certificate. I need a valid government photo ID, my medical certificate.
Okay. Now, is there any place that you can't go with a private pilot certificate?
Any place that I can't go with a private pilot certificate?
Any altitudes, any airports, any? You just have a.
I'm not sure what you're getting at. I don't know.
All right. Well, so let's say we buy you go and buy a Cirrus SR-22. I get you your high performance endorsement and I get you your high altitude endorsement, but you're still just a private pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Cirrus SR-22 turbo with an oxygen system in it. That thing can climb up to like 19,000 feet.
Yeah.
Can you go up there to 19,000?
No, I would need to be trained on how to use the oxygen.
Well, we did all that. You know how to use this airplane.
Okay.
Can you go up to 18? Can you go up to 19,000 feet? What airspace starts at 18,000?
Oh, okay. Class Alpha.
All right. So as just a private pilot, can you go to Class Alpha?
No, I need an IFR flight plan to go there.
All right. All right. And I know these questions might seem like a little vague. The PTS, the ACS, requires a lot of scenario based because it requires you to think through it, right? If I'm just like, can you go to Class Alpha? Well, what about Bravo? Oh, Bravo's all right. Charlie, what? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's not a whole lot of scenario there that doesn't make you think through it. All right. Now, so Alpha, you need an IFR flight plan. What about Bravo? Can you go into Bravo airspace?
Yes.
All right. Describe to me, like, let's do a little. I'm ATC. How would you ask to go into a Bravo airspace?
So the first thing I'd do is I'd say air traffic control, Diamond 1234, 1234, and they'll get back to me with Diamond 1234.
Diamond 1234. This is Diamond 1234. I got you loud and clear. This is Phoenix approach. What do you need?
Yeah, and then I'd just say I just want to come in for land. Wait, do you want me to say it as if I'm in a real airplane?
Yeah,
or just
okay, so I'm ATC. Talk to me. Let's just go through the radio calls.
Phoenix approach. I'm in 123 inbound full for landing. Requesting permission into the Bravo.
All right, Diamond 1. Yeah, Diamond 123 Squawk 1516.
Squawk 1516. Diamond 123.
All right, Diamond 123 radar contact. You're cleared into the Bravo. Into the left downwind runway 12 runway 12. Are you cleared into the Bravo now?
Yes.
Awesome. Now, if they said Diamond 123 standby, can I go into the Bravo airspace?
No, I cannot.
All right. Now, if I heard that from a Delta tower, am I cleared into the Delta airspace?
If he says my full tail number, yes.
Awesome. What kind of equipment do I need to go into Delta airspace?
You need a two-way a transceiver, or I shouldn't have said that. No. You have to establish two-way radio communications, a Mode C transponder.
Do I need Mode C for Class Delta? Your specific Class Delta.
Yeah, ours do because we're in the Mode C ring, but I think no. I'd say you'd need a radio.
You need radio, two-way communication.
Yeah, that's it.
And yeah, that's it. Right. That radio doesn't even necessarily have to be installed in the aircraft. You can have a handheld.
Yeah, like a walkie-talkie and just.
Well, okay, not a walkie-talkie, an aviation-based radio, of course. Okay. But I'm not running to Walmart getting a walkie-talkie. Like, yo, tower, you got me. Right. What are you going to do in the event of a radio failure?
And my best option would be to go to an uncontrolled airport and land there.
Okay. Yeah, that is really a really good option. Does your airplane have Bluetooth?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I,
well,
no.
you need to know your systems. Um, I know everybody's got a knee board that has the light gun signals on it, right? Let's say that
Yeah.
you don't have enough gas to get to an uncontrolled airport. You have to go to a Delta. What are you going to do?
I would circle over the field, and then I just wait for light gun signals
Yep.
from power.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, um, can you drop stuff out of your airplane? I know your specific airplane. No, you cannot drop stuff out of it. You can't get the canopy open. But we're flying one of these, right? It's got a window. It's not a very big window. Can you drop stuff out of it?
Yes, as long as it doesn't harm any person or property.
Awesome. Awesome. I know that the story I like to reference is I had a student that like they'd puke all the time, and then they'd get right back into training, like and then they'd puke, and they're like, well, I don't want to sit with this thing, and throw it out the window.
Have you guys
Oh, what's up?
have you guys actually done that before? Like thrown out?
Yeah. I'm
Oh.
not keeping it in the airplane with me. Are you?
I mean, I don't want to pollute the earth, so
we had
yeah.
biodegradable bags. We had like the yeah. Either way, it's kind of gross. All right. So you've got two airplanes. They're head on to each other. What should y'all do?
We have to turn to the right.
All right. Now, let's say again, you hit the lottery. You got that fancy SR-20. Oh no, even better. You went and bought a Mooney Ovation. All right, that thing can do like $180. Now you're doing 180 knots, and you're sneaking up on Dirtbag Pilot in his Cessna 150 doing 80 knots. Which side are you going to pass him on?
The right.
Awesome. Why do you start clearing turns to the left?
Because like you'll have traffic from the right if anyone wants to overtake you.
Awesome. You and a helicopter are about to collide with each other. Who needs to give way?
The helicopter.
Awesome. Why?
Because he can stop. I mean, he can hover. I can't.
Helicopter's more maneuverable, right?
Yep.
You're coming into land at an airport. There's somebody in the pattern at 800 feet on downwind.
Mhm.
You are about 3/4 of a mile out on final at 1,000 feet AGL. Who has right of way to the runway?
So he's on downwind and I'm on final, right?
Yep.
Well, me, because I'm on final. He's all the way in the downwind.
He's on. It's the lower traffic.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The lowest traffic does have right of way, and I know there's even a caveat that says that you will not take advantage of this to get the to get the advantage, right? To end up on the runway first. Downwind's a pretty long leg. If I'm at 800 feet on downwind, I'm probably about to turn base.
Okay.
Like downwind isn't just at the crosswind; it's the whole leg.
The whole thing. Okay.
Yep. So if I'm at 800 feet, right?
I thought what it was is when two airplanes are on final, then the person on the bottom has the right of way. But if he's on downwind and I'm on final, I can just go ahead and quickly land, and he'll just follow. I thought that's what you meant.
No. So here's the thing: it is the lower traffic does have right of way.
Okay.
That is the thing that's explicitly stated. Yes.
Mhm.
Like, let's be honest. If you're on a 3/4 mile final or a 1/4 mile final or what have you, like, fucking land, right? That would be the safer thing to do. But if he's lower, about to turn base, just go around, right? Like, go arounds are free. Airplane crashes are pretty expensive. I've only been a part of one, and it wasn't my airplane, but the guy was crying, so I'm assuming it's pretty expensive. So, if you were coming to an airport and it stated that it had an aircraft arresting system, what would you do?
If I was coming to an airport and it had an EMAS,
Not an EMAS. I'm talking
or
about it. I'm talking about the aircraft arresting cable, like
oh,
for
like
the
the ones they
fighter
use
jets.
on aircraft carriers. Okay.
Hmm.
Um,
Where am I going to land? Or let's say the arresting cable's halfway down the runway. What am I going to do about that arresting cable?
I try not to go over it. I just
Yeah,
just do a
avoid it.
short field landing.
Well, not even
And,
necessarily a short field landing. A lot of these cables are right there at the 1,000-foot markers because that's where people are aiming to land.
okay, then I just land in front of it.
Yeah, you'd land past them, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to cross over them. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me dig through this real quick. Now, you're out on a cross country and you get lost. What are you going to do?
If I'm out and I get lost,
Mm-hmm.
I would.
You have no idea where you're at.
Okay. I would climb. I would circle. I'd communicate
With who?
uh, with air traffic control
All right.
or or on guard. If I could find anyone on guard, I'd conserve fuel. Um, and yeah, I would use VORs to get to wherever I
Oh,
need to
damn.
be.
The VOR's broken. VOR's out of service. Who are you going to talk to? What are you going to ask for?
Uh, I'd talk to on guard anyone. I'd just be like, hey, I need help.
Okay. Hey, this is Bob. What do you need?
Bob,
You're looking for some level of ARTCC, right?
yeah,
ARTCCs, they're pretty big. Like they cover a wide range of area, right?
yeah.
What was the last frequency, or like even not necessarily the last frequency, but check your sectional, right? Look for the closest Class C or Class Bravo airspace to where you think you might be. Right? You probably didn't cross any state lines. You ain't moving that fast. All right.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say I would use ForeFlight and use VORs to see where I am.
yeah, I mean, your iPad doesn't have very good GPS signal. Shucks. But you at least know what state you're in, right? You at least know, like, you can generally identify a mountain, right? And be like, okay, I think that's the mountain I'm looking at on my sectional. I don't know where I'm at technically over here. I'm going to talk to, oh, look, there's a Bravo airspace. There's probably some kind of approach or departure near them that I can get a hold of them on. The last C that you were looking for, the 5 C's of being lost, is comply.
Comply.
Yep, comply. The 5 C's of getting lost is going to be circle, call, conserve, comply. Oh, shit, I missed one. Circle, climb, conserve, call, comply. All right. Because if ATC is like, hey, you're going to go here, like, why wouldn't you comply with it, right? Don't argue with ATC when they start providing you instructions, right?
Right.
All right. Oh, come on. Did my mouse die? No, there it is. Now, is there any other training that you would need to go fly something with over 200 horsepower?
Yes, I would need a high performance rating
Is it a rating?
or an endorsement, a high
Awesome.
performance endorsement.
Awesome. Let's talk about let's get back into just a little bit of systems, right? So how you talked about how the cabin, it's heated, right? How is the cabin heated? Where does it get that heat from?
Believe ours is the vents. I'm actually not sure about that one.
All right. I just want to make sure that yours isn't electric. Preventative short. All right. So if you look in the POH, page 184.
Let's see. Yeah, this thing. 184. Okay.
What does that
I
say
see.
about cabin heat?
The cabin heat and defrost system directs ram air through the exhaust heat shroud into the cabin heat valve. The warm air is then directed to the window defrosting vents and to the cabin floor as selected by the floor defrost lever.
Awesome.
Cabin heat selector
You're good.
located.
So where are we
Okay.
getting that heat from?
From the vents,
Well,
I believe.
where are the vents getting that heat from?
Or ram air.
Around?
The exhaust heat shroud.
Okay. So if I have a crack in my exhaust, is there anything I need to be concerned about?
Yes, you need to be concerned about carbon monoxide poisoning.
Okay. How would I notice, like, what kind of symptoms would I kind of expect from carbon monoxide poisoning?
Um, hmm, I'm actually not sure.
Well, it's a form of hypoxia, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So what kind of symptoms would I expect from hypoxia?
Uh, cyanosis. You're dizzy. Uh, dizziness, lack of reaction, and yeah.
Right. Let's use simple words. Blue fingers, blue lips, right? Cyanosis, blue fingers and blue lips, right? Euphoria, poor decision making, stuff like that, right? You got a passenger that's freaking out. They are over here just like they can't get their breath under control. They're hyperventilating. What do you think you could do to try and help them?
I'd give them a paper bag to breathe in, or have them talk aloud the checklists.
Awesome. I generally don't like the paper bag option because let's say you're up at 7,000 feet. Is there a whole lot of pressure and whatnot for oxygen up there? No, you just gave them a paper bag. They went from hyperventilating to hyper passed out. Okay, they went to hypoxia real quick. They went from I'm breathing too much to I'm not breathing at all. I know on the ground, sure, right? I don't like it because the last thing you need to do is go, shit, are they dead? Right? They got real quiet real quick. But I did like the read the checklists out loud. All right. Sing a song, right? The wheels on the bus go round and round. That's a really good one because it's got a lot of long round and round. The wipers, it makes them breathe kind of evenly. All right. But you're right. Study guide, or not study guides, but checklists is an amazing option. Okay. What are you're out flying around at night. Okay. What are some illusions you might experience if you're flying around at night?
I could experience inversion, a Coriolis, elevator.
Talk about the night ones. Those ones are all over the place, right? Let's talk about some specific night illusions, right? Stuff that wouldn't necessarily happen during the day.
Aren't these like at night? Or?
So you've got which ones you get? You guys said
I
you
was
got
using the ice flag acronym.
Okay. So I know which ones you're getting into, the Coriolis. That's not necessarily just at night, right? It's more of a lack of visual reference. So this could be day IFR, right? It could be day VFR on top. All right. Coriolis can really impact you at any point in time. So at night, we've really got 4 that usually get brought up when it comes to night. One specifically about landings. So if
Oh,
we're flying around out in the desert, right? And there's a cloud layer. There's like a front that moved through a real shallow sloping front that caused kind of a bit of clouds to be out there kind of at an angle. Or maybe there's a city kind of at a diagonal from me. What kind of illusion might I experience from those?
false horizon.
Awesome, awesome. It- what is autokinesis?
It's when you stare at a light or anything like that for too long, and you think that it's you seem you see it, and you'll think it's moving. Then in reality, it's not.
Yep, that's why we always see a bunch of dead birds around cell phone towers. It's not even a joke. That's exactly what's happening. Birds fall victim to it as well. They're like, "Oh, it's moving." Click. Oh shit, no, it's not.
Oh,
Right? Um, Humans do the same thing. Okay. Now, let's say you entered IFR conditions on accident. You're just kind of cruising along. Visibility kept going down. You're like squinting, like, "Nah, I'm good. Let me just clean my glasses real quick. Nah, I'm good. I'm good." And next thing you know, you're like, "Can't see a damn thing. I ain't good. I ain't good at all." What are you gonna do?
I would rely on my instruments and try my best to get out of IMC conditions.
All right. How?
I turn around and
Yeah.
just get out.
Right. Um, so if you were to turn around, you got a rough estimate on about how long it would take you to exit the clouds?
Hmm.
No, that was a question. Do
Or,
you
or
have a rough estimate?
oh, uh, however many minutes it took me to go in to,
So from
I guess.
initial entry to exit could be about 3 to 5 minutes, right? Because you're going to be turning at a standard rate. So what's a standard rate turn? How long is it going to take me to make 180 degrees at a standard rate turn?
Uh, it wasn't it was like 1 minute or
Yep.
three
So
minutes.
it's 1 minute. It's 1 minute, right?
1 minute.
Let's say I had there was a little bit of a headwind that moved this cloud across me as I was moving into it, right?
Hmm.
So it's going to take me about 30 seconds of a little bit of a 1 minute to about, or 30 seconds to about a minute of like an oh shit factor. Let's just
Hmm.
be honest. Private pilot entering the clouds inadvertently. It's like, oh shit. What are we going to do? Oh yeah. All right. My instructor. What did my instructor say? Okay. 180-degree turn, standard rate, maintain coordination. Okay. Let's do that. And you make your 180-degree turn. It's going to take you about a minute to turn around. Then it could take you another minute to two to get out of the clouds. Let's say for some reason
Hmm.
that didn't get you out of the clouds. What are you going to do next?
I would contact the nearest air traffic control facility and ask them to vector me to the nearest VFR airport.
All right. Make sure you include that I am a private pilot, or I am
A
a
pilot.
non-IFR rated private pilot. All right. Because if you're just
Yep.
like, "Hey, ATC, I'm in IFR. Can you give me vectors to the nearest airport?" They're going to go, "All right, advise when ready to copy your clearance." And you're going to go, "What?" So just make sure you include the fact that you are not a VFR pilot, because they assume that you're an IFR pilot, right? Some of them ask, some of them don't, right? Um, awesome, awesome. Let's talk about your instruments, right? So you have a glass panel, right? So you don't have any of the mechanical instruments and whatnot. How did
we,
um
we do have them. It's not all of them. It's just one or two
yeah, you have some backups, right? But your primary
backup.
instruments, you've got your airspeed indicator, your altimeter, and all that stuff, all as a part of what did you say? It was a G500, two G500s? All right.
Yes,
Where do those G500s get their data from?
from the pitot mast
Okay, that pitot mast goes to what?
to an air data computer.
All right, so we've got an ADC, an air data computer. What controls our gyroscopic instruments?
Or gyroscopic instruments. Electricity, I
Well, I
believe.
mean, yeah. Because because we don't have any spinning gyros in there anymore, right? They're all solid state gyros. What computer contains all of those solid state gyros? Have you ever heard of the attitude, heading, and reference system, or the AHARS?
Yes.
All
Yes, the
right.
AHARS.
So what instruments are included in your AHARS?
The attitude indicator, altimeter, airspeed indicator, your turn coordinator, um, and your heading indicator, or DHSI.
Okay. So a couple of those were extra, right? They are not included in the air data, or they're not included in the attitude, heading, and reference system. So it's attitude, heading, and reference. Was there air anywhere in that?
No.
So where does our altimeter get its data from?
The pitot tube.
Well, the altimeter is going to get it from the static port, or sorry, your pitot mast, which would technically include a static port on the back of it, right?
Yeah. Or sorry, the airspeed would be from the RAM hole, and then
Okay.
the altitude is. Did you ask altitude? I thought you said airspeed.
Oh,
Never
I might
mind.
have misspoke. Sorry. Where does your altitude, right? So we already said that our airspeed comes from our air data computer because it's taking air into an account. So
Yeah.
every other instrument that uses air would be what?
Any other? I'm sorry. Could you repeat?
Any question? What instruments are taking outside air references?
Oh, okay. Our pitot-static instruments. So
Yeah.
airspeed indicator, altimeter, vertical speed indicator.
Okay, so I know when we were talking about our attitude, heading, and reference system, you brought up your altimeter, and like one other one. I think you said vertical speed. Are those included in the AHARS?
No.
No. Okay. So ADC handles airspeed, altitude, vertical speed, outside air temperature is one that a lot of people forget. AHARS is going to be your heading, your attitude indicator, and your turn coordinator, and your rate of turn indicator. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense? And again, this is all in the PHAC. I forget exactly what chapter it's in, but it's in the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. So we've got, you said you have some standby instruments. What standby instruments do you have?
We have the altimeter, and the airspeed indicator and altimeter is in all of our airplanes, and some have attitude indicator and a compass.
Okay. So you've got a compass in there. Awesome. Does that compass, does your heading indicator, your HSI, does it use that compass? No. So where does it get its data from?
A magnetometer.
Where's that magnetometer?
In a remote place where any other magnetic field won't interfere with the signal.
Awesome. That's a pretty good understanding of your instruments. Just brush up on that whole AHARS and ADC. Like, what's the difference? What instruments cover what? Now, I don't think we talked about spins. What is a spin?
A spin is an uncoordinated stall. So
a spin starts with an uncoordinated stall. All right. So if I stall uncoordinated and I just drop the nose, was that a spin?
No.
Okay. So a lot of students want to say that a spin is an uncoordinated stall. A spin starts with an uncoordinated stall. All right.
Okay.
Now, what are the 4 phases of a spin?
Entry, incipient, fully developed, and recovery.
All right. What are we doing through each one of those? Or let's talk through recovery. How do we recover from a spin?
So you do power, idle, ailerons neutral, full opposite rudder deflection in the direction of the spin, the opposite direction of the spin, and pitch down slightly. So elevator down slightly, and then you pull out of the dive.
Okay.
I missed I missed one. So for full opposite rudder, and once the spinning has stopped, rudder neutral, and then break that stall, or just break the spin and then pull out of the time.
Okay. The problem is with that whole elevator slightly forward. It's the phrase I've always used is elevator briskly forward. Okay. Because when
Okay.
I'm done spinning, the airplane's like this. It's falling
Okay.
like this. All right. A lot of general aviation airplanes, the nose is pretty heavy and it'll get it down on its own. Um,
Hmm.
but the spin recovery, that's supposed to work for every airplane. All right. It's supposed to be
Yep.
pretty universal across every airplane, general aviation wise. You try to spin an Airbus, like you're just going to snap the thing in half. Like it's not going to happen. Okay. But elevator briskly forward, break that stall. Because when we stall, do we just go a little bit or do we really give it?
No.
Yeah, we really give it some to get the nose down so that we can recover from the stall, right? Why do we pull the power
Yeah.
to idle?
That's a good question. Pull power idle. Hmm.
All right. So
I'm not sure.
what happens to the nose of the airplane in the way of up or down when you apply power?
When you apply power, the nose wants to go to the left.
Well, to the left,
The
yes, but in the direction of up and down. If I just give it juice, is the airplane going to pitch up or is it going to pitch down?
up
Right?
and pitch up.
So if I just stalled, is it a good idea for the nose to go up?
No.
So pull the power to idle. Let the nose drop,
Back.
right? Aileron's neutral. Why can't I just bank out of a spin?
Because you'll probably get it back into another spin, or they
No?
won't work.
Yeah, because I'm stalled. All I'm going to do is make it worse, right? Because the whole idea of a spin is that I'm rotating like this, right? And the outside wing is generating some lift while the inside wing's pretty much generating no lift. So if I try to bank out of it, I'm increasing the angle of attack on that inside wing. I'm just going to make it stall worse. The only thing that's going to happen is I'm going to spin faster. Okay.
Okay.
How do I know which rudder to press?
Whichever one that has the resistance the most.
Awesome. Elevator, briskly forward. We talked about that. What's the difference between a spin and a spiral?
I'm not sure.
Where the center of rotation is. Spiral, the center of rotation is outside of the airplane. Spin, the center of rotation is inside the airplane.
Okay.
You get the difference? Spiral,
Yeah, I see.
right? Now, how do I know if an airplane is airworthy?
If it has an airworthiness certificate.
Awesome. Let's say I've got a shitty mechanic that does not take the airworthiness certificate out. So I'm not entirely sure if this thing's airworthy. What would I look for in the maintenance log just to verify? Like, sure, airworthiness certificate's in the airplane, but it's still up to the pilot in command, me or, soon to be you, to verify that everything has been complied with. What am I looking for in the maintenance log?
That all the inspections have been completed.
All right. What are those inspections?
So yeah. For our airplane, yeah, we have the GPS every 24 days. Sorry.
Oh,
the GPS.
the database, right?
Yeah. Every 28 days. Sorry, 28 days. And the ADs as required. The annual inspection every 12 calendar months. The VOR inspection every 30 days for IFR. The I stands for 100-hour inspection. 100-hour inspection every 100 hours of takt time. The the altimeter every 24 calendar months for IFR. Where am I at? AVI. The transponder every 24 calendar months. The ELT every 12 calendar months, every 1 hour of cumulative use, and every time it's half of the battery life has expired.
All right. You walk up to the airplane and the ELT is turned on. Is that ELT good anymore?
It's turned on.
It's just sitting there on. Shit. I wonder how long that's been on for.
Yeah, it's not good.
All right. So the one thing a lot of students forget is unknown time. Right? On for an unknown amount of time. So we always remember like at least half of its cumulative use. But if you walk up to the airplane, do you know how long it's been on for?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We check after each flight on 1 to 1.5. We turn the volume all the way up. We see if the ELT is going off or not.
Awesome. Somebody might not have done that. Right. Let's just be honest, right? You're not the only people that are in that airplane. We like to assume that everybody's doing things right every time, all the time. But like, let's be honest. Yeah. All right. Now, if you walk up to the airplane and the Diamond has static wicks, right?
No,
Diamond doesn't have static. All right. You walk up to the airplane and the standby airspeed indicator just doesn't work. Like the needle's pointing at 140. I don't know why. The airplane's not moving, but the needle's pointing at 140. Is this thing legal to fly?
The airspeed indicator? Okay.
The standby airspeed indicator.
So standby airspeed indicator. Shoot, we have two.
What's required?
Yeah.
The airplane's airworthy. What do I have to do to show that it's still airworthy? What do I have to do to that airspeed indicator?
You have to, if it's inoperative, then you have to deactivate it and mark it as inoperative and make a note in the maintenance log.
Awesome. Now, where would I look? Like, let's say I walk up to the airplane and there's something on it broken. I don't even care what. But I don't know. I have no idea if this impacts the airworthiness of this aircraft. Where would I look? I'd go ask the mechanic.
So the first place.
Sorry, continue. What? The first place? I'd say I'd go ask the mechanic, right?
Yeah. But the first place I would look is 91205.
Okay.
The required VFR equipment. If it's not in there, then I'd check the type certificate data sheet for the airplane. If it's not in there either, then I'd check if there's any ADs for it. I think I'm missing one. And then I'll check the kinds of operations list. If it's not in there, then it's airworthy. If it's in there in any of those that I just mentioned, then it is not airworthy.
All right. One thing, STCs, supplemental type certificates.
STCs.
Yep. That was the last one. And I know, again, you're in a fairly new airplane. It probably doesn't have much in the way of STCs, but STCs as well. Is there anything else that you are concerned about? We can dig into a little bit of airspace and like just reading a chart and talking about it. My biggest complaints really are everything that's in the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. Like any questions you missed it was a little obvious that it was like, hey, we got this from a study guide or we're probably instructed on this. But at no point did we reference the source material to back it up. Right.
Okay.
Which is a very common thing. We trust our instructors that, especially as a student pilot, they're your first introduction into aviation. So you kind of like look up to them and, everything they say must be right. And it must be the totality of what I need to learn, right? Instructors make mistakes, right? They gloss over a few things that are important. So I definitely, reference that Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. and read through the POH. I know there's probably like a little study guide or cheat sheet about stuff in the POH. Sorry, my cat's under my desk. But read through the POH. And that was really like the big sticking points was a couple items in the POH and a couple items that were questions directly from the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. Okay. Is there any subjects that you feel as if you're weak on that you think that I didn't cover enough, or?
I don't really feel weak on anything. I just wanted to mock Checkride just to see what I don't know. Because I've been at the books for for forever the last couple of weeks, and I haven't practiced with anyone. Question answer, question answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to see what I'm weak at, and I'd say I'm okay in weather, but I could use more help in weather.
Okay. Well, let's dig into it. Reading weather or understanding weather?
Understanding weather, I'd say.
Okay, so when two air masses come together, we got a high pressure and low pressure. What do we expect to happen in the middle?
A front.
Weather. We expect weather to happen in the middle, right? How quick they come together is really what impacts that weather, right? So if I have a cold front and a warm front coming into each other, the warm front's real hot and humid. The cold front's pretty dang chilly, but pretty dense, and it's really kind of stuck down, and they're both moving into each other fairly fast, right? What am I expecting out of that overtake?
We're going to expect extensive vertical development, so a lot of clouds and rain.
Yeah, a lot of clouds.
Just bad weather.
Yeah, a lot of clouds, a lot of rain, possibility of convective activity, right? What are the things that are needed for a thunderstorm?
You need a lifting force, enough moisture, and high humidity.
Well, that's what moisture is.
Yeah, a lifting force, high humidity. And an unstable lapse rate.
Yep. So moisture, instability, and a lifting mechanism. Yep. That's it, right? So lifting mechanisms can be orographic, or they can be temperature based, right? So mountains, or even, the surface of the ground heating, right? Let me look through my little study guide, make sure I'm not missing anything. We can dig into fog formation, right?
Sure.
What is describe to me radiation fog?
Radiation fog is it usually happens on clear, cold nights. It's when the cold ground will radiate cold air, and it'll cool the air that's in the air that's not on the ground. It'll cool it to its dew point, and you'll have fog that way.
Yeah, that's like exactly the right answer. What about some advection fog?
Advection fog is when warm, moist air flows over cool, dry air, and then it gets cooled to its dew point, and then again, you get fog.
It's not necessarily flows over cool, dry air over a cool surface, which can be, cool, dry air. Now, if I've got really cold rain dropping, or trying to think of how to word this question. No. Yeah, that one was a little complex, and no, that's not what I want. I mean, you're good on fog. Go ahead.
Is weather like a huge part of the Checkride?
No,
Not really.
No, like When I used to do check rides, or sorry, certificate granting stage checks, I would talk about the weather that the student brought. It
Okay.
wasn't a matter of me drilling questions like what's fog? What's advection fog? What's upslope fog? Okay, what's a thunderstorm? What are the differences about what are the different thunderstorms? Tell me about an embedded thunderstorm. Read it, but it was more like the student brought winds and temps aloft and the METARs and a significant prog chart and all this other jazz. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this. Why did you use these weather sources?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I might pull up a couple things on aviationweather.gov, like, hey, read this to me, because I did a lot of this training in Arizona, and you look out the window. If it's clear, it's going to be clear all day. If it's raining, it's probably going to be raining all day. So, I'd pull up stuff from like Chicago and be like, hey, read this TAF to me. And they'd go, but that's Chicago. I'm like, okay. Hey. Yeah, like read this to me, let's make sure that we understand it. One good question, I've heard a lot. What is the most accurate weather depiction? Not necessarily a picture, but what is the most accurate weather that I can get?
Most accurate weather. The METAR?
So
METAR?
the METAR is an observation, right?
Okay.
That observation's 44 minutes old.
Yeah.
Is that the most accurate weather?
No.
No. A PIREP.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Makes sense. There's somebody in the weather. Belle, I'm almost done. Stop yelling at me. What are the different types of icing?
You have rime, clear, and mixed.
Okay. When am I going to end up in rime ice? Hopefully never.
Yeah, hopefully never. Rime ice. I remember there was something. Yeah, I'm
So
not sure.
if I have water droplets that fall through a temperature inversion and then back into cold air, what are they?
Mm-hmm. They're ice pellets.
No, they're not necessarily. They can turn into ice pellets. Yes. Have you ever heard of super cooled liquid water droplets?
But that's what the definition. It's in the definition.
Yep.
That.
It's in the definition. Formed by instantaneous or very rapid freezing of super cooled water droplets as they strike the aircraft, known as rime ice. Right. Describe to me what rime ice looks like.
It's just ice that's like foggy-ish. It's not clear. It's just kind of foggy.
Yep. Have you ever? I'm not sure where you live, but up here in Wisconsin, just a couple of weeks ago, it was like foggy all day, and it was super cold. The fog was super cooled moisture, and as the fog hit my car, ice was building up on the front of my mirrors.
Oh,
that's rime ice.
Yeah, we don't have that issue here in Tennessee.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, you definitely don't have that issue.
Yeah, our weather is very like fluctuating all the time.
Yep. All right. Let's say you can always see your wing. What are some of the impacts of icing on an aircraft?
It reduces lift. It spoils the smooth airflow of the wing.
All right. So if you've just got a little bit of frost on the top of your wing, like you went camping, it was a real humid night, and you're like, damn, I'm ready to go home. But there's a little bit of frost, just a little bit. Are you good to go fly?
No.
No, clean wing, right? Clean wing. To me, it seems like you're pretty good on weather. Like I'm not going to show you a picture of a cloud and go, tell me the concerns about this cloud. No.
Yeah.
Right.
This entire time, ever since I've started, weather has been the hardest one. So that's why I always go hard at weather.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I talk to my friends and we do like question and answer, and they're like, "Dude, you know more about weather than I do."
Yeah.
I'm like,
There is an FAA book that is put out about weather. Have you read it?
not the aviation weather handbook. I know there's advisory circular like 006 Bravo or something like that. Haven't read it. I should, but have not.
Here. I'll yeah, the aviation weather handbook. Have you read through that?
No.
No? All right, here it is. Copy. Can I not send a message through here? Where did Discord go? Message. All right, there's that aviation weather handbook. That it's going to get really deep. It's going to start talking about like radars and all kinds of other stuff. But I'm looking through the chapters and seeing what I'd really recommend. Chapter 11, chapter 10. Chapter 2, or sorry, chapter 4. 3, chapter 3. And this is like everything that I would really recommend. You know, I'm not saying you need to go read all of this tonight. You know, but there's things like Arctic weather where it starts talking about like weather around the Arctic circles.
Oh.
I don't think you really need to dig into that. And then there's space weather. Right? Not really. It's not really pertaining to your situation, right? Right. Chapter 18. And I guess you're down south in chapter 17. Okay.
Gotcha.
But I mean, then there's like chapter 15. That's an entire chapter purely on radar. It's not really important for you. Okay. So there is a lot in this book. It does get really deep, but if you read through those chapters, I wouldn't see you failing a Checkride on weather. You have the PHAC, right?
I do, but our flight school uses the Jepson pilot handbook, and we use that as the source material. But I also use PHAC if like I need more information.
Yeah,
and I use PHAC.
So what does your DPE use?
We don't have a DPE. We have like a chief.
So you have examining authority. Okay.
Yes. So he's the one who does the Checkride. And
okay.
Our school is a 141 school, and their TCO, their curriculum, everything, it's all based off the Jepson book.
Okay, that's fine, you know, because if there's a TCO and you know that's the source material they're using, then use the source material. I prefer free books. You know, I'm just gonna be entirely honest. I prefer free books.
I've seen the PHAC goes into more detail. So if I ever need to like know something that's really really important, I just go straight to the PHAC instead of the Jepson book.
Do you know where the PHAC is written from?
It's by the FAA, right?
Well, yes, but where is that book getting its references? It's the AIM.
Oh, okay.
The PHAC is written from the AIM. The pictures are literally the same. The PHAC just has them in color.
Okay.
All right. So again, if you're like in the PHAC and not getting all the information you want, go find the same section in the Airman Information Manual. Okay. But yeah, if you don't have any other questions, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say Checkride ready, but you're right there. And some of the biggest ones was just like the few chapters in the PHAC. If you're really concerned about weather, read through those chapters in the weather handbook. I'd say your weather was pretty solid and better than most of the students that I ask. But you know, the stuff that's in the POH was a little weak. All right. Those speeds that we brought up, those should be solid. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, get that stuff done, but don't forget to study everything, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, if you don't have any other questions, I'm free to go.
I do not.
All
Well,
right.
thank you very much for this.
Yeah.
Highly appreciate it.
Yeah, be on the lookout. It takes me a couple days to work through this, and I mean, I'm busy. All right, so probably not going to be anything posted for maybe a week or so. All right.
I'll be out.
All right,
I'll be
man.
looking at.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too.
Yeah.